Not even 24 hours later. Yes, last night the Miami Heat lost to the Boston Celtics in Game 5 of the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And not even 24 hours later, Jimmy Butler and his contract extensions numbers become public. And now we have to break it all down with all the information that we have. We'll do that on this episode of Heat Digest, where we create daily Miami Heat content. So if that interests you, subscribe to the channel, as 84% of you guys currently watching this video are not currently subscribed. We're on the road to 1,400 subscribers, trying to grow a real Miami Heat community on this channel. So if that interests you, obviously subscribe to the channel, as 84% of you guys currently watching this video are not currently subscribed. But now let's get to it and break down the big news revolving around Jimmy Butler for the Miami Heat, as again, not even 24 hours after the Miami Heat season comes to an end, Jimmy Butler's contract extension becomes public. Now, nothing is concrete. Nothing has actually gone forward and happened yet, as a contract extension for Jimmy Butler does not open up, the window at least for it does not open up until July 7th. So we have a little bit of a ways, but again, this more time for the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler to negotiate, possibly find a sweet zone or a good spot, if you will, somewhere in the middle if they don't want to meet the actual number. Now, before we show you the number, I will highlight this. Bobby Marks, who is an analyst and insider for NBA front offices, came out and said this just this morning. It was made public, saying, this is obviously from Emo Jimmy Wheeler Jalen on Twitter, who we've cited a bunch of times this NBA season for the Miami Heat, saying this. Bobby Marks says Jimmy Butler is a name to watch this offseason due to contract extension. And I quote, does Jimmy Butler go back to his days in Minnesota and ask out? End of quote. To continue to say this, if you're watching anything in Miami this offseason, it's going to be what happens with Jimmy Butler. The end of the second quote there. Again, from Bobby Marks, who, again, we are going to see a hell of a lot of, not only for the Miami Heat this offseason, but really for any team in the NBA that has any type of deals or transactions going on during this offseason period, as he is a great source of information to have, especially during the summertime of NBA basketball. So he said that, and not even just a few hours later today, Legion Hoops, another very credible source that we see a lot on this Heat Digest channel, Jimmy Butler wants a 2-year, $113 million extension from the Heat this summer. Now, they go on to say, worth it for Miami? Absolutely worth it for Miami, and there's a few moving parts here that we're going to break down. The first thing is from Anthony Chang, who, again, we see all the time from his tweets. He wrote an article on the Miami Herald, and I have a few quotes from that article I really want to highlight. First one being this. Jimmy Butler, who turns 35 on September 14th, is expected to seek a maximum 2-year contract extension worth about $113 million from the Heat this offseason, according to a league source. Now, it doesn't end there. If you continue to read through this article, if Butler gets the extension that he will ask for the Heat, will ask the Heat for, he would be the 8th highest paid player in the league for the 2025-2026 season, based on contracts already signed that include the 25-26 season. With a salary of $54.3 million, Butler would be also the 6th highest paid player for the 2026-27 season, based on contracts already signed that include that season, obviously, with a salary of $58.6 million. Now, really quick break here. Currently contracted, Jimmy Butler is listed as the 11th ranked highest paid player in the NBA going into the 2024-2025 season. Now, obviously, things can change if this contract extension is granted to Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat. Now, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, the window for a contract extension for someone like Jimmy Butler does not open up until July 7th, obviously, of 2024. So we still have a ways, as it is only May 2nd right now. So there is a bit of time until that window opens up for the Miami Heat to get a deal done with Jimmy Butler. But obviously, he's at the forefront of this Miami Heat's really offseason plans, as he's the big fish here in Miami. Obviously, I don't just mean in the sense of being the alpha. Yes, he comes in, he sets the tone not only vocally, emotionally, mentally with this Miami Heat team, but obviously on the basketball court. Jimmy Butler has been simply fantastic for the Miami Heat. Now, his averages is 21.3 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 5.7 assists in 291 total games with the Miami Heat in his career. Now, you have to remember he's now played 5 seasons with the Miami Heat. Obviously, we just highlighted his statistics. But then if we look at the playoff numbers for Jimmy Butler, he has been really fantastic. Where did they go? Okay, I don't have them, but I thought I did. And if we do highlight the fact that when Jimmy Butler does play in the playoffs, we know he's averaging 21 for his 5 years in Miami, but we know he turns it on in that playoff time. He's really propels this Miami Heat team, who has lacked on the offensive end for the last handful of years, especially when he's been there. Not because he's there, but because the overall collection of talent around him. Yes, we have Bam Adebayo. Yes, we have Tyler Hero. But due to injuries and other things and an inability to really find an offensive groove, it seems like he is obviously, as we've seen year after year, the number one option on the Miami Heat's team, because he just has a different ability than really everyone else when it comes to scoring the basketball and really just being the overall presence on the offensive end for this Miami Heat team. If we notice the 21 points, I do know his average does go up to 26 points per game in the playoffs. He is simply just fantastic. And obviously it's not just scoring, as he has the ability to not only rebound, facilitate the basketball because of the attention he demands whenever they're on the offensive end of the court with Jimmy Butler and the ball in his hands, but also the willingness and ability to defend Jimmy Butler is second to none when he's healthy and on the floor for this Miami Heat team. Not to mention, he's just so damn tough. I know this is recency, but a real recent example. But again, he got injured in the first round of the play-in. He slightly sprained his MCL in his right knee and at the end of the first quarter, and went on to play the next 3 quarters of basketball at a high level for the Miami Heat. Obviously, he wasn't great. Obviously, he wasn't the same Jimmy Butler, as no one can really be the same old athlete that they are with a sprained MCL that they're playing with. Obviously, that's a lot, asking way more than you can really do. Anyone can really manage to do. But again, he's as tough as they come, and we know it's not just the offensive and defensive production, on the floor production overall. It's the mentality, it's the leadership he brings, as he is not a pushover. He's really he's that guy for Miami, and we've seen it year after year, whether it's his on-the-floor performances or if it's his post-game or pre-game press conferences, where he just flat out disrespects other defenders on other teams and tells them to accept the challenge because he's never going to back down from them. He's just a walking ball of confidence, it seems like, not just for himself and a self-oriented confidence, but a team confidence, an organization confidence, as he loves Miami. He's on the record to say he wants to finish his career in Miami. I have more quotes from Anthony Chang, I just went blank there. But this is, again, from the Miami Herald article that he wrote today about Jimmy Butler and that contract extension, saying, so essentially, Butler will be asking the Heat to replace the 2 years and $101.2 million remaining on his contract, should exercise the 2025-26 player option with a 3-year commitment worth $161.7 million. Now, this wouldn't be a 3-year extension. It would be a 2-year extension to the 1 year he has left on his contract. And because of that, the reason because of that is Butler is limited to a maximum of a 2-year extension because the over 38 rule does not allow him to sign a new contract that would take him past the next 3 years, including the 1 season of guaranteed money remaining on his current deal. So he cannot sign a 3-year contract because it would take him over his age of 38, as he, again, is turning 35 on September 14th of this year. So, and with that 1 year left on his current deal of all guaranteed money, he's looking for that 2-year extension that would take him to 37 right before the age limit of 38, where you can't really surpass that with the new contracts and the way things are really set up with the new NBA program and with the cap room and everything else. If Miami is going to be capable of doing this is a totally separate conversation, and that the amount of money that the Miami Heat have to get underneath with the first cap and then the second cap It is extremely confusing, and I'm going to bring you guys a video with more of Bobby Marks' graphics that he has on Twitter, breaking down the draft picks we have, the luxury capital that we have, our ability to go out if we have to move players. What players would we have to move? What money would we have to launder? What money we would have to then move again to then be able to create cap space to then bring some of these big name free agents, guys that are opting out. Obviously, LeBron James is opting out of his contract, most likely in LA after this season ends, or which it just did for the LA Lakers. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Whether the Miami Heat are going to be willing and jump at Jimmy Butler's offer immediately, and they're going to tell him that they're going to sign it immediately and offer it to him immediately, is totally up in the air. We do not know yet what Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and the rest of this organization is really going to do, but we know Jimmy Butler's side of things. We know that he is only able to accept a 2-year deal or less, obviously, because of his age at being 35 on September 14th of this year. And we know that Bobby Marks, before this even became public, he knew that this contract extension is going to be something that Jimmy Butler is going to be looking for. And Jimmy Butler's Jimmy Butler. He mentioned the Minnesota things. He flat out told him that his time was done in Minnesota. And whether or not he does that in Miami, I severely doubt, because he's on the record saying that he loves Miami. He wants to really finish his career in Miami, and he wants to win in Miami, which, yes, he's been very successful in his first 5 years in Miami, getting to constant playoff run, constant long, deep playoff run, NBA championship appearance after NBA championship appearance. Obviously, we have not won a single NBA championship with Jimmy Butler yet, but it seems like we may have a possibility to come back next year with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo at the helm, with possibly some new help surrounding them that could possibly elevate this team's overall level, and possibly the overall impact that this team makes in the Eastern Conference, as there is a bunch of really good talent that is very, very young, with the Knicks, the Blazers, the Pacers, and then obviously the Boston Celtics, who we just lost to last night. But again, that's what I wanted to break down to you guys on this episode of Heat Digest. There's going to be a surplus of more content coming involving Jimmy Butler and the rest of this Miami Heat team, as the offseason has already got started for him, as again, not even 24 hours into our offseason, and Jimmy Butler's big contract hopeful extension has been made public. Again, I hope you guys enjoy this video of Heat Digest. I'll see you guys on the next one, hopefully with some more good news revolving around the Miami Heat.